these are your strengths and weaknesses. Okay? So, what are strengths is basically skill sets or competencies that you as a person specifically are good at.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that nobody else has them. Maybe everybody has them. It's absolutely okay. Okay? But mention 3-4 things that you're good at. It is very difficult and also it's very difficult to believe also if somebody says I'm good at 10 things. Okay? You would not be the best at 5 things also, because it's very simple. If you're best at one thing, chances are you're compromising on 3-4 others, which is okay, right? Or you can be above average in 4-5 things. You can even be average in 3-4 things. But when it comes down to what sets you apart, what is the not all of these questions are going to be asked in the same manner, right? So they may not ask what are your strengths. So how would they ask you? What are some interesting stuff about you, or what are you good at? What are some of the qualities that make you better than others? What are some things that we should know about you? What is the most likable quality? What do you think are the strongest points on your CV, of your candidature? Why would you make one of the best employees, or why should we choose you over others? These are all invitations for you to talk about how you strengths, what you are good at. So what are the strengths? We discussed this in the session also, but what are some of the things that they are looking for? Okay, they are looking for someone who can take an initiative, who shows potential as a leader, who is good at collaboration. They may call it teamwork, but they're essentially talking about who is collaborative. Therefore, they are adaptive. They are flexible.
Right.
Okay, they are okay to work. They understand that there will be people from different cultures, different sexual identities, different genders, different ages. So you are okay to work in diversity, inclusivity, that's inclusive environments. Okay, nobody says no, we are not, but that is what they are trying to check. Okay, these days multicultural is a major thing. Okay, also when you say you are flexible or adaptive, it shows you are okay to work with ambiguity in a chaotic situation. You can remain calm. Okay, you can think on your feet when required. These are some qualities that you need. We are also talking about AI, so in the next 5 years, you're okay with working with a very different sort of a co-worker as well. So you at least have an open mind.
Open mind, right.
Yeah. Then they are looking for resilience and agility. Okay. जो आपको पढ़ाई में भी आएगा. Again, these are similar to adaptability, flexibility. Resilience is staying strong despite whatever may happen. Some of us, so COVID is a story that all of us have. So इसमें problem ये होता है. Some of the people, when they were asked about, tell us when you took up responsibility on the personal front, or you really came through for someone during a crisis. Most of the people, at least freshers, or I think not just freshers, a lot of people have mentioned, even in the admissions or job interviews, that my parents were sick, my grandmother was sick during COVID, and I stepped up. It doesn't make a good impression. You were supposed to do anyway.
Right.
You can't claim it as a brownie
bar,
right? But if you want to say that there was someone who was very impressive, who had said that my parents were unwell for a long time and father couldn't come, and they ran a medical shop. So then he took over the shop, and then at that time learned how to handle things. So that is good.
Okay.
That shows आपने क्या किया. Okay? You are not saying कि देखो मैं कितना अच्छा बेटा हूँ. You just show that I could manage the shop and understood. Yeah,
on a different
responsibility.
On a different level.
Yeah. So that way you do that. And other strengths are generally sense of character in terms of some people are absolutely okay to say they think it's a medicine of badge of honor. They say they are very ethical, they have values, they have very strong values and ethics, they have a very good professional ethic. It's absolutely okay to say that. Only point is it has to be true, because the moment you say these things, people will want to test it, and you should have evidence, okay, or at least a strong belief system. Also, when you say something that I have extreme, I really believe in this thing, I'm very strong, I have very strong this thing, it shouldn't show that you are very rigid also. It should show that you have your opinion and you will stand by it, but you are willing to listen to someone else. Okay? So, strengths and good points, etc. are that, interesting things are that. Weaknesses are basically, also one more thing, I think we'll come to that when we discuss future also, but suppose one sort of a hack is, the company I'm assuming that you're sitting for, right? You have some primary
Yeah, we would
You would, right?
We would do our background research.
Right. So please do background research on the company. Even if you have an hour or a day or whatever, read very thoroughly, more than the PPTs that
The talks that
talks, pre-placement talks that they are giving, वो तो करिए ही. उसमें भी listen carefully to 2-3 things. I know we are digressing a little, but this is a background for questions. If you can ask, you ask, or else at least note what they are mentioning about. What are the kind of people they are looking at? Okay. Usme you will find some common themes. Okay? You may find every company says the same thing. That's okay. And note them down. So suppose they say we are looking for go-getters or we're looking for initiative. Just note it down that this company X said these things. Okay? And then I'll tell you why. Then look at what...
if you find a synergy with what they're looking for.
Yeah. Which is one. And we'll come to that one.
Right.
So let me say. Then second thing is, during the PPT, look for their profile descriptions. So what is it that if they do, I don't know how the PPTs work here, if they give you some profile description of the responsibility areas, etc. And when I said listen carefully, I'm saying mention, they will use certain keywords. They may be words that you are being, anyway you are studying, but still sort of mention, note them down. Now coming to a synergy thing, this will help them when you sit for their interview, mention those keywords very subtly. ऐसे नहीं कि सबको करना, it's like SEO. Some things you have to hit. Right? So that unconsciously you are telling them, see, I am what you are looking for. Without actually telling them. Yeah? And the other thing is, when they talk about their company, their culture, their team, you will get a sense of what is their culture, obviously. And you may again argue as if anybody would argue that they will always say the nice things. They will. But you can ask a follow-up question. For example, if they say, we are like a family, everybody is welcome and aise. If you are skeptical, then ask. You can also ask them during PPT, you can ask questions, right?
I think yes,
yeah. So just ask, not to question, not like a lawyer, but in terms of could you tell us what do you do, right? For example, if somebody would have to ask me that how is SPJMR culture as an employee, and I can tell them a lot of things, or I could tell them, we do a lot of these festival celebrations, cultural celebrations. The senior faculty is always open to mentor the junior faculty. So that shows a culture of collaboration without me saying those words.
Yeah, got it.
So these are examples. Right? So you could ask them, for you as a potential employee, you could check, do you have a mentoring policy, or how are the new hires guided in the first year? What is the kind of expectations you have in the first year from us? How is the performance measured? Okay, this tells you about certain things.
Right.
How is there some training that is provided? One person asking all 6 might feel बहुत सवाल पूछे, that depends on you. But ask 1 or 2 questions. But please ask about how is it that is going to be the working style, because then it will help you define a little bit about the culture of the company. Yeah. And coming to this, so you can pick up some words just in case you find you don't have information or you miss the presentation or whatever happened, but you don't have information. Go to the website and check about us section में कुछ लिखा हो. Sometimes they give most of the companies have these leadership profiles, leadership teams, etc. And they have certain keywords pick up from there. Again, it cannot be ये 5 चीजें लिखी, यही 5 चीजें मैं बता रहा हूँ, but in a subtle manner you can say those things. And the caveat or the overarching thing in all of this is do not bluff. I will never advise anybody to bluff even a little bit. Be authentic. अगर नहीं है तो नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं. Own up to that. Okay, but please never ever lie in any interview. Okay, even if you think you can, please don't. Yeah. Okay, so coming to the weaknesses. You do not need to make it a therapy session. That this is my problem. Okay, you also need not make it a very superficial session. Right? Superficial, what I mean is, these are the top 3. If you Google weaknesses, you will get I am perfectionist, multitasker, I take stress very easily. Sometimes some people mention I have trust issues. While they are good weaknesses, they are cliche for a reason. But the thing is, again, it shows just laziness, that you have not worked hard enough to find out.
Introspect.
Yeah, to introspect. So, go back to your PG Lab or any other reflections in any other courses that you have done. Okay, or just think in this term. Also, weaknesses can be masked, like if I have to ask someone about weaknesses, I generally ask them these questions. I don't ask them weaknesses or improvement areas because I know what answers I get. I ask them, tell me one or two things that would make you a bad hire, or that would not a bad hire, but that would make you unfit for my company. Or if I were to ask two of your closest friends, what would they say is something that is a little bit off about you, or what is something that you feel is not the best part about you, right? So these are also technically weaknesses, right? Also, improvement areas are something that you are working on. For example, you could say that coming into MBA, I've realized that I need to learn time management a little bit more. Even that's a little cliche answer, but it's also something which is expected, and therefore it seems honest. Right. That I realized that there are the initial 2 months I had struggled because I was getting used to the life of a student, especially if you've come from the corporate. This sounds very, very authentic, if it is. That I had to submit assignments on time and waking up at a certain age, living with a roommate, having case competitions, and a lot of other things to do. Plus, I wanted to explore the city, explore the student life. So I learned, I realized I was not very good at time management at that time, which ended up me waking up longer hours or sleeping less than required. It took me a time to adjust to the mess food. And then now I think I've become better at it. Now I've been able to manage my time pretty well, having spent 1 year here and those sort of things. But that's something I think I still need to work on a bit. And if you are doing something on it, you can mention that. I watch podcasts or TED Talks or read books on productivity hacks, or I figured out some apps that help me with productivity. So then it shows that you are in this regular flow, that you are not ashamed of this, you are actually working on this, and you are happy to talk about it. Okay? We had someone who we actually hired for a manager position also, who had mentioned about a weakness in something like that. We had asked that, I realized I had impulse control issues. Now, initially I felt, अरे बाप रे इसने ऐसा क्या बोल दिया, but he followed it up very well. Said I have impulse control issues, and while in other areas I have been able to manage, when it comes to the food I was not. And because I was staying alone, I used to just Zomato something, but then I realized I needed to prioritize my health. And he gave this very nice account of how he did everything, and it just showed us that okay, this guy is very mature. He's accepting that he had an error. He's accepting that there are other circumstances adding to it. But he's also saying that I realized health is a priority, and this is what I did. He thought about it in a very nuanced way. Yeah, and because he had done all of this, for him it just flowed. He didn't have to think too much. So it was very nice the way he handled the entire thing, and we liked that part about it. That it was authentic and honest enough. Right. So weaknesses are those things. So as I mentioned at other session that we had, you could go up and look up your personality profiling. If you agree that it matches more or less. See, personally, personality profiles are, to me, they're like horoscopes. Okay, why? Like I am a Taurus, right? So everything for every Taurus in the world, something is written. Right. It may not happen to me entirely, but somewhere. For in that sense, everything that is written about an introvert is true for all introverts, okay, or extroverts, or whatever are the other profiles. But what I am saying is pick up something that really resonates with you. What happens because you are an introvert? So there are certain strengths, there are certain weaknesses. Right? Weaknesses just means, for example, if you are an introvert who is put into a position where introverts they need a little bit of a jump start while connecting with people. It's not that they don't like people or anything like that, right? Compared to an extrovert who can go up and talk to someone. So introverts may feel, we get bored by small talk. They're excellent in one-on-one conversation or one-to-few conversations. So that's a strength. But you can say, I get a little nervous before approaching a large crowd of people. But during my communication course or during the general course, I realized in my batchmates of 240, I managed to at least know the names of everyone, or I've connected with everyone in my batch, or I spoke to them. Or during DOCC, I had these 4-5, although they were my batchmates, but I didn't know them very well. But I spent a month with them, and I have developed a relationship with them, or at least I've gone over my nervousness of meeting to people. So I'm working on, basically. Nice. Similarly, extroverts, while they are absolutely okay with talking to people, they are also sometimes they feel that we need attention. Probably. Yeah, they're a little too much, and also they might feel very alone, lonely. In solitude is something that they can't digest. Not all, sometimes. So they can say that thing also. Now, or they can't focus. Suppose they are going for a research like a bucket research or something in which there is a lot more time spent alone than basically when they are not centers of attention, they feel a little weird because they feed off the energy of others. Right? So suppose they are working online. Everything else is perfect, but they're working online, so they don't have a team of people around them, right? The buzz is not around them, so they may feel a little anxious. So they said they can mention the extroverts that we realized something like this. So then we try and find out connections, or I'm realizing that sometimes I get a little antsy. So now I'm spending some time with myself. Probably I've learned 30 minutes of meditation, or I go by a campus, a lake, and sit there for some time. Or I'm also starting to realize that, or starting to make more quality over quantity sort of relationships. So while I know that networking is my strength, I also understand that I can make deeper connections also, as well as spend some time by myself also, develop my own hobbies. That suppose something like, because now COVID is an excellent context for everyone, which can give you real examples of how we all survive. So something you can always say that, and it's okay to bring in COVID because everybody can relate to it.
Correct.
It's COVID. You all didn't have online classes, right? But online working, if you did or something like that, you can say this. Then your other question.
I just have a follow up here. So you mentioned that sometimes we have a tendency to sound naive when we're talking about our strengths and weaknesses. What would you suggest to just ensure that we don't,
Right. So what do we mean by naive, or what do I make it naive? Is sometimes. So you all are in the age range of, I'm assuming, 22 to 28 or 30, let's say, right? So you are not supposed to be entirely wise adults in that sense. Like even from a 50-year-old, that's you can't expect that, because age has nothing to do with wisdom. But we are expecting, as in whoever is hiring you, is expecting some amount of maturity that you have developed.
Right.
Because you have now finished an education, or at least part of an education, which is aimed at developing your managerial and administrative and you as a person.
Right.
You have undergone graduation, plus you have done post graduation, and because you are here in this institute, which is also you have undergone a lot of rigor and testing to come here, it is expected that you have made the decision. मम्मी ने बोला, पापा ने बोला, भाई ने बोला, इसलिए आप MBA नहीं कर रहे. और अगर वो भी किया है, they may have a hand at it. They may have nudged you towards it, but it has to be your independent decision. So how do you convince you are an independent thinker? By or showing that you are not very naive is that you give answers which one are backed by evidence, backed by some thinking that you have done. Okay, that there is some amount of maturity that has gone into it. So for example, if you say, oh, I like numbers, which is why I have taken finance, or I love working with people, which is why I am getting into sales, it sounds a little juvenile.
Right.
It might not be wrong, okay, but it's a very small part. Also, it just shows that you feel numbers पसंद है तो finance में जाओ. मतलब और किसी में numbers नहीं आने वाले ऐसा नहीं है, right? Or you like working with people? Everybody works with people. We don't work with zombies.
So probably just to re-articulate what you said, so it's a very superficial understanding of whatever you are trying to do.
Yeah.
We need to show them that we've gone through our due diligence and we've got to know the subject that we want to do before making the call that this is the subject that I want to be associated with.
Yeah, and there should be a difference between what a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old would answer compared to what even a 22, 23-year-old would answer. There has to be some growth
there, right?
So being naive is so I'm not talking about trying to sound cocky or sharp on that sort of thing. What I mean by naive or juvenile is it should not seem that आप ऐसे ही आके बैठ गए बस, no preparation. Okay, it could show in small little things also. Okay, for example, the way you have dressed, the way you are answering. Okay, even if you take a moment to think, I would rather appreciate someone who says, "Can I take a minute to think about it?" I'm okay with that. I'll give you 5 if you want, because it should not start just rattling off stuff like that, right?
I'm responding.
You are responding, and you need a moment. Absolutely okay.
Correct.
Okay, the confidence that shows with the posture and everything, and you can take it up with some, in other sort of way, everything. But the way you dress, like we had I have seen in some interview panels we had, not job interviews, admission interviews, we had people in their night dresses and casual t-shirts and everything. It just shows you are not serious.
Right.
Or you are too arrogant. Either way. Now we can have stories of Harsha Bogle ended up in IIM Ahmedabad interview in shorts. That's like exception. Okay, that's not the norm. Okay, and people look down everywhere. You have to be sharp in every which way. You have to look presentable. You have to look like you care.
Yeah.
So you made an effort because you care.
Correct. It's indicative of what you represent.
Right? Afterwards, you can be a Zuckerberg or a Jobs and wear the same T-shirt every day. उसके बाद अलग बात है. But right now, you have to show you care.
Yeah, correct.
Right? This is what talk about naive and not being juvenile, that sort of thing. Okay? Back up and have good logic. And you have it. It's just a matter of presenting.
Right.
Okay? Connect stuff. Connect things.